Would you buy this? For me, Lexus always wins when it comes to interior and exterior design. And this Lexus NX 450h Plus is a very good example of that. Because the design feels sharp, premium, and elegant, but at the same time, it still has a sporty edge. That's what I like about Lexus. They know how to make a car look expensive without making it feel too flashy. The NX 450h Plus has that strong front-end design, clean body lines, and the kind of shape that gives it real presence on the road. And honestly, that's not easy to do in this segment, because a lot of SUVs start to look too similar. But this one still feels like a Lexus straight away. It has its own identity, and for me, that's one of its biggest strengths. Now getting into the driver's seat, and honestly, this is exactly why I always say Lexus is so strong when it comes to interiors. Straight away, it feels premium, clean, and very well put together. What I really like here is that Lexus still keeps proper physical buttons on the steering wheel and dashboard. And that makes a big difference, because it just feels easier and more natural to use than putting everything into a screen. The driver display looks nice and clear, and the middle screen gives the cabin a much more modern look, especially if this car has the 14-inch setup. So from the driver's seat, it already feels very high-end. Now the gear selector is a bit strange for me, I'm not going to lie, but I'd still take this over having no gear stick at all. At least it still gives you something physical, and that just feels better in daily use. The glove box size looks good, the seat material feels premium, the dashboard feels soft and well finished, and even the center storage is smart because you can open it from both the driver and passenger side. That's a really nice detail. Now that I'm actually driving the Lexus NX 450h Plus, this is where the car starts to make even more sense. Because yes, the design is premium. The interior feels very Lexus, but the real question is whether this plug-in hybrid setup is actually good enough to compete with the best cars in this segment. Under the hood, the NX 450h Plus combines a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine with plug-in hybrid power and all-wheel drive. Lexus says it can do 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds, so this is not a slow SUV at all. It's not trying to be aggressive like a performance SUV, but it definitely has enough power to feel smooth, strong, and refined in daily driving. And that's really the whole character of this car. It's not about drama, it's about giving you that quiet, premium, effortless kind of speed that suits the Lexus brand very well. Then you've got the plug-in hybrid side of it, and that's where this car gets more interesting. The NX 450h Plus offers around 37 miles of electric-only range, which means for a lot of people, shorter daily trips could be done mostly on electric power. And Lexus quotes a combined 84 miles per gallon equivalent, which is a strong talking point if you want some EV feel without fully committing to a full electric car. And honestly, that's why plug-in hybrids like this still make a lot of sense for some buyers. Because with a car like this, you get a bit of both worlds. You can drive it like an EV for shorter distances, but you still have the petrol engine there when you want the flexibility for longer trips. So if you're someone who likes the idea of electric driving, but still doesn't want to depend fully on charging all the time, this kind of setup can actually be a very smart middle ground. And this is also where I think the real debate starts. Because if you're shopping in this segment, you're probably not just looking at Lexus. You're also looking at cars like the BMW X3 plug-in hybrid, maybe the Volvo XC60 Recharge, and depending on what kind of buyer you are, maybe even a full EV. Take the BMW X3 plug-in hybrid, for example. BMW says that car gives you 299 horsepower and up to 52 to 54 miles of electric range. So on paper, it has a clear advantage in EV range over the Lexus. That's a big deal for buyers who want to maximize electric driving as much as possible. Then you look at the Volvo XC60 plug-in hybrid, and that one goes even harder on performance. Volvo quotes up to 455 horsepower, with electric range up to 35 miles in the US and up to 49.1 miles WLTP in the UK spec. So again, this shows you how competitive this segment is becoming.
So on paper, the Lexus is not the king of power, and it's not the king of EV range either. But that's not really what makes this car interesting. What makes it interesting is the balance. Because Lexus is trying to give you strong efficiency, usable electric range, premium comfort, and that well-built Lexus feeling all in one package. And honestly, that's probably why a lot of people are drawn to Lexus in the first place. It's not always the car with the craziest numbers. It's usually the car that feels the most polished, the most refined, and the easiest to live with over time. And that matters even more when you start thinking about fuel consumption. Because one of the big questions with plug-in hybrids is always this: does it actually save you fuel, or is it just extra complexity? And the answer really depends on how you use it. If you charge it regularly and most of your driving is short or medium distance, then a plug-in hybrid like this can make a lot of sense. You can take advantage of the electric range, reduce fuel use, and still have the petrol engine ready when you need it. In that kind of use case, this setup can be a really good alternative to a normal hybrid, or even a full EV.
But if you never charge it, then you're carrying around the extra weight of the battery and not really getting the full benefit of the plug-in system. And that's something people should always think about with cars like this, because the plug-in hybrid only really makes sense if you're actually going to use the electric part properly. And that's also what makes the hybrid versus EV conversation interesting, because a full EV might give you more electric range and lower running costs if you have easy charging at home. But a plug-in hybrid like the NX 450h Plus gives you something a lot of buyers still value: flexibility. You don't have to plan your whole life around charging. You don't have to think the same way you do with a full EV on longer trips. And for some buyers, that is still a very big advantage. So I think the NX 450h Plus really fits the person who wants some electric driving, good fuel efficiency, premium comfort, and no range anxiety. That's probably where this car makes the most sense. And while I'm driving it, that's exactly the kind of impression it gives me. It feels smooth, quiet, comfortable, and very refined. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard to be sporty. It feels like it's trying to be a premium SUV that just happens to have a very clever powertrain underneath it. And honestly, that suits this car really well. Now, of course, some people are still going to say, why not just go full EV? And others are going to say, if I'm getting a plug-in hybrid, maybe the BMW or Volvo gives me more on paper. And that is exactly what makes this such a good comparison point for viewers. Because this Lexus is not the obvious answer for everyone. It's the answer for the buyer who values refinement, comfort, design, and that Lexus quality just as much as they value power or electric range. So while I'm driving it, my first impression is this: the Lexus NX 450h Plus may not win every spec sheet battle, but it feels like one of the most polished and most complete plug-in hybrids in this class. And sometimes, that matters more than having the biggest number. Tell me in the comments, would you take the Lexus NX 450h Plus over the BMW X3 plug-in hybrid, the Volvo XC60 Recharge, or would you just go fully electric instead? Now let's check out the trunk, and first impression, the space looks very usable. It's not just about having a big number on paper, it's about how practical the shape actually is, and this one looks easy to load for everyday use. That's something I like here, because the NX still feels premium, but it also gives you the kind of trunk space people actually need in a car like this. Shopping, luggage, daily stuff, family use, this looks like the kind of space that would work well for all of that. The shape also helps because it feels wide and clean, so the whole area looks easy to use, not awkward or over-designed. And that matters because in an SUV like this, practicality is a big part of the experience. So overall, the trunk gives a good first impression. It feels usable, practical, and it matches the rest of the car well. Now let's move to the back seat, and honestly, it still feels properly premium back here. That's something I really like, because the rear doesn't feel like a weaker part of the cabin. The material looks really good, and it keeps that same refined Lexus feeling from the front. So straight away, the back seat still feels soft, high quality, and nicely finished. Space also looks good. It feels comfortable enough for everyday use, and it looks like the kind of rear seat area that would work well for passengers on daily drives or longer trips. It doesn't feel cramped, and that makes a big difference. So overall, the back seat gives a very good impression. Nice materials, good space, and still that proper premium Lexus feel. The one thing I do notice back here is that there are no rear AC control buttons. And honestly, in a car like this, that is something some people might miss. It's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely worth pointing out. So overall, the back seat still feels premium, the materials are nice, and the space looks good. Tell me in the comments, would that missing rear AC control matter to you? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more honest car reviews.